Gemini 25, a man trimming palms. It's interesting to notice the relationship between two adjacent Sabian symbols. So in this case, my Venus is in the next degree. And if you want to understand how best to realize a particular degree, you can look to the previous one, as though they're stepping stones. So if I'm to understand my Venus in Gemini 26, I have to learn Gemini 25 probably. And this speaks to me because a man trimming palms, it's just like in England, I used to see these guys in their retirement just pottering around the garden, changing a hedge's shape from something that was really beautiful to something that's structured and very self-determined rather than natural. And I didn't really like that. I thought that was not only counterproductive, spoiling nature, but it was also a very trivial pursuit, you know. And so I have to learn this. Is it a trivial pursuit or not when we just spend our life prettying up nature, you know? This is me being a little bit cynical. And reading this degree is very helpful for me because it isn't trivial, actually. On the scheme of things, what we do as individuals is always going to be puny. We're never going to change very much in the world, if anything. It is the way it is. We can change our own worlds and we can't do anything else. So that part of it is absolutely the opposite of trivial. But in terms of making a difference to anyone else's world, it's not our concern. However, what we yearn to do is to impact upon nature. It's really obvious that everybody wants to make a difference, even though really we can't. And this kind of paradox is shown here, where somebody trimming the hedge to make it a little bit closer to his sense of, or her sense of beauty and the right relationship between our creative urges as people on the one hand and nature's wildness. If nature is left untamed, there is wilderness, there is wildness, and there's a beauty in that. But then there's another sense of a deeper beauty as far as we're concerned, actually, where we tame it a little bit. And a garden is created out of nature. And we can go too far in this direction. We can make our garden basically unnatural. Straight lines everywhere, orderliness. We can impose order onto nature if we do that. And you see this in certain places, military gardens, for example, they do that. They paint stones, don't they? But the best gardens, I think, are ones where nature and culture are interacting somehow. We just tame nature to some extent and never attempting to do that completely because we can't. It's just too fast in its changes. You need an army of gardeners to change a garden. So why are we talking about gardens here? What's the implication? And what we have to do is to find the metaphor. When we're trimming the hedge to make the natural wildness conform to a sense of order, we can apply that metaphor to our own wildness of being with the same result, that unless we tame the wildness, then actually community cannot form, we can't interrelate very closely with other people. Nobody wants all of our wildness. It's just unreconcilable with somebody else's. They want a certain measure of it, perhaps, and that's what we're doing here. We're saying, control your wildness. Don't suppress it. Just make it beautiful. Trim your wild urges to some extent, to not so much a reasonable extent as a beautiful extent. If you find a person whose personality has been trimmed and trimmed and trimmed again, such that there's almost nothing left which is different from the packaged canned, acceptable personality that community says is okay. If you find such a person, they are unredeemably boring. Somebody has to have a little bit of a quirky side to be the slightest bit interesting. And if we contain our wildness totally, we've missed the point in life. The point in life is to be who we are, not conform to society's requirements. However, if we let that go too far and our own wildness is just left to run amok, then we can't fit and we have no place to be. So the secret here is to actually learn which of the bits of our wildness to trim and which to allow a natural expression. And this isn't a formula. This is something that we have to adapt to different people, different situations, different times of our lives. They're allowing us different degrees of wildness. We had this phenomenon in the 50s and 60s, as I seem to remember, where women started colouring their hair very extreme colours like purple and so on, and when they got to a certain age. So you would see old women wearing purple hair. It was really noticeable and colourful. They could do it. Whereas if you tried to do that when you were younger, you wouldn't get away with it. And certain communities, like I've been involved in camps, and all the hippies turn up in their colourful clothes and trousers of green and red if they're men, and things like that. And you try walking into a pub like that in rural Ireland, which I did, and people look at you with a strange look. You can't take your dress code necessarily from one place to another. So we have to trim our wildness according to where we are, how we are, who we are, how old we are, these kind of things. And then we're okay with it. Then it makes us more interesting as people.